From WBBZ-TV Sports, it's time to Beat the Champ. Now, here are your hosts, Paul Peck and Sue Novoitsky.
Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to Beat the Champ's third week here at Classic Lanes in Kenmore, and we are deep into our competition with Rob Piccoli, the returning victory man from last week. But as we've learned through the first 2 weeks, Sue, it's kind of hard to predict who's going to win anything right now.
Well, yeah, and it's been great bowling, great shows, lots to talk about, and I think that this might be the highlight show of the month because there's some really strong talent out there, good experience, and a variety of games. So it's just going to be so interesting.
Yeah, we saw Pat Brick make a nice little run, but then he winds up losing and to Dave Kirsch, who then loses to Rob. And this week, Sue, we've got Andy Reddick, we've got Voitovich and Shaun Dietz, all really high-level bowlers. What are you expecting?
I'm expecting to try to watch and see what the righties are going to do because their lanes are going to transition a little bit more than what's going to happen for Andy. So if Andy can get lined up, that's going to be really tough. Rob, if he gets lined up with his ball speed, kind of tough to beat that as well.
It's been a very heavily lefty group of bowlers for the first 2 weeks. Not so much today. We'll see how big a difference or how big an advantage that may be. So, let's get rolling. Match number one is Rob Piccoli against this gentleman, Voitovich. He has certainly been a very successful, long-time beat-the-champ bowler, along with being successful at a lot of other things in bowling in Western New York. But 11th appearance on the show for Voitovich. First time we've seen him since February up at the Rapids Bowling Center. But what jumps out at you about Dana's run here on Beat the Champ, Sue, is a 15-win and only 5-loss record.
That's amazing. And I think that came around the same year as he had his success at the Open Hour. So he had like a really
That was
strong
last year, yeah.
year.
Yeah, and you know, and Dana's just been really, really consistent. His 11-match winning streak that happened in 2017 is the second longest that we've ever had on the show, only to Jeremy Zimmerman's 14, of which 9 of them came right here at Classic Lanes.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting because Dana is obviously a two-hander, and it looks like his ball's biting up a little bit early. And when he qualified, it was, I'm sure, not as beat up of a condition as we're seeing right now. So as these lanes have evolved, so when these bowlers jump in, does it affect what the outcome is? You know, because they qualified, if they bowl great on fresh oil, and now you're talking about, you know, pretty beat up condition, it can look entirely different to them.
Well, speaking of bowling great, that's what Rob Piccoli did in winning the last match against Dave Kirsch, 244 to 141. It's Rob's 14th appearance on the show, and he has now evened his record up with 11 wins and 11 losses. This is the third month in a row that we've had Rob on the show. Think about how hard that is to do.
It is.
To qualify to be one of the 9 qualifiers 3 months in a row.
Right, well, we say that about Mike, and I mean, even though they're not here, I don't think we can go a month without mentioning, you know, what Mike and Chuck have accomplished as far as getting on the show as many times as they have. But truthfully, we've seen Rob almost, you know, you can only make the show once a month, and, you know, Rob does it. He just doesn't get quite on the streaks that those guys do.
Right.
But it's still amazing to be in the top 9, and you pull out Mike and Chuck, you've only got 7 spots left.
You're right. That's true. Although it's kind of funny that there haven't, just off the top of my head, there haven't been a ton of months when we've had both Mike and Chuck. We usually have one or the other sometimes.
And it really has been turning out that way.
Because, as you know, those guys have only matched up against each other 4 times in the 4 years of the show. You know, and again, here, this was Mike Zarcone is actually, he probably still here. He was here a little earlier here at Classic Lanes, and he was the #1 qualifier going into the round of, you know, into the roll-off. Didn't bowl great in the roll-off, so he didn't make the show this time, but, you know, he would have been on the show again had he had a typical Mike Zarcone performance in the roll-off.
Absolutely, and that, you know, one of the things with that is, like you said, how you go from high qualifier and not being able to be in the top 9 when you bowl 3 more games. But it's what pairs you hit, what time of day you're hitting it. See, his ball's biting up early. He's fighting it right now. And it's one thing's been consistent every single week is that they've all been fishing in the beginning. It's like like these lanes have to be just changing while we're talking,
Yep.
because they're all, it starts out the same way.
Yeah, and it's the guys who have been a little more successful while they're fishing, avoiding the opens, getting the spares, and then starting to catch
Right.
the fish about the third or fourth frame
Right.
are the ones that have been winning. Give yourself 2 frames to figure out what's going on here, but you better start making a decision about what you think it is by about that 4th frame.
Right.
You know, and again, I think more, as much as any, through the first 2 weeks here, you know, we've seen a lot of open frames. There's been a lot of them.
Right.
Some guys like Pat Brickwer have been able to overcome them, other times not. Dave Kirsch didn't overcome them in our last match. So, you know, it's been interesting. We haven't had guys just sort of blow their way through. And again, as I mentioned, Rob's 244 in the last match was the best score we've had by about 20 pins.
Right, and even then, when he took this first shot up here and went light, his ball went super straight. That's where he said he has to back off on his speed a little bit, because he was a little bit too firm with that, and it totally skated past his break point. So he has to. They're not. The moral of the story is they're not easy. Like if he shoots 244, he shot a great game, because you can't be off in anything. You don't have a whole lot of margin for error.
That's 2 in a row for the 34-year-old from Kenmore, produce manager for Tops Friendly Markets, is Rob Piccoli. 227 overall average for him, and he is busy bowling, 4 or 5 nights a week, a couple of nights at Transit and the Travel League and Broadway and a few other places. There's Sue Jeziorski manning the Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard, filling in for Janelle Sabin. We'll hear from Sue at the end of our match, as she's been able to provide some bonus color commentary there to follow up on what you've been able to tell everybody.
Right,
It's
well,
great having a pair of Hall of Famers. The Sues, it's great hanging around the two of you guys.
This feels like a good time to take a short break. We'll be right back with more action on Beat the Champ.
Instant replay on Beat the Champ is brought to you by Transit Lanes and Keglers. Join us for bowling, food, and drinks.
Welcome back to Beat the Champ. Let's get back to the action here on WBBZ-TV.
So Rocket Rob will line it up on lane 31 here for frame 6, working 4 in a row. Make it 5, nice, smooth approach, and boy, not wavering much on where the ball is going. I mean, Rob's locked in right now.
Well, there's no doubt in my mind that 31 hooks earlier than 32, but you can't tell, because by what Rob's doing, it's not really visible by what he's doing. But one lane he can throw it a little harder, the other lane he can be a little softer on it.
Yep. 23 years old from Cheektowaga is Dana Voitovich, works at Spare Time Bowling Center as his occupation. 225 average for Dana. Girlfriend Caitlin here cheering him on, and
Yeah.
Caitlin's going to be a silent ride home, I think. Caitlin will be smart enough to know that he's not real happy.
He can't get it down the lane.
Dana's not going to be real happy. Just things are not going well for him
It is
right
just
now.
going left on him before he can even hit his break point. So we're talking about, you know, we're almost at the end of this month here for our regular bowlers, and we're just starting qualifying over at Mellitz's Island Lane, so they have somebody, the winner here has somebody to compete against. And today is going to be the first day, opening day for qualifiers there, 2 and 4 p.m. So it's too late today, but Wednesday, October 2nd will be a 7 and 9 p.m. squad. Sunday, October 6th, 12, 2 and 4. It's going to be a busy day over there. That's going to be a lot of people showing up for that one. October 6th on Sunday. Top 24 roll off at 7 p.m. Taping's going to be October 12th, Saturday.
All right, that's for our next stop, is Island Lanes in Grand Island. Always an entertaining trip to the land of Malwitz.
I know.
Never know what Mike has in store for us up there.
And you know, we get our Halloween shows then too.
Oh, goody, yippee. You gonna make me put on some kind of Halloween decoration or mask again
You know,
this year?
I'm going to have to really come up with something for you.
Can't wait. So Dana ends that run of 3 consecutive opens with a spare here in the 7th. That's
He just wants to
not
stop
gonna
the bleeding at this point.
Yep. So now again, Rob's in a position where he's bowling great. He's got 5 strikes in a row. Just needs to be safe and steady and solid, and he'll get himself on to take on Andy Reddig in match number 2.
Well, I can tell you that he needs a 193 because the best Dana can post up now is a 192.
And he's been getting the lucky pin slides to get him to another strike.
Well, he's got 170 in the 6th frame. So I don't think he's going to throw 6 consecutive gutters. So he's looking really good right now. But he's also got an opportunity to post a 290 up there.
Yes, he's got a spare in the 1st frame and 6 consecutive strikes since then, as you can see, thanks to that incredibly legible handwriting of Sue Jeziorski on the Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard. Whoever taught young Sue there in the 3rd grade or whatever that was did a very nice job with her handwriting. 7 in a row.
Well, learning how to keep score by hand is not a thing people do anymore.
No.
So.
Writing by hand is not a thing people do much anymore.
It's scary.
People at home are watching going, what are those things that Sue and Paul are holding in their hands?
Oh, isn't that scary?
Why are they not doing this on a laptop or something, which we could do, but... See, I'd probably be better if I had a program that was doing this on a laptop. It would keep track of the score for me and I wouldn't have to always ask you. There's Dana's strike in the 8th frame.
Finally got it to lay up a little bit for him.
Of course, the 2018 Obenauer Masters runner-up was Dana Voitovich, and we remember having that fun opportunity to sit down with him and Jack Jurek and recap that 2008 Obenauer Masters victory for them as part of one of our Beat the Champ shows. That was a lot of fun. And anytime you get into that top 2 or 3, 4 or 5 of the Obenauer, that says an awful lot about you as a bowler. 7 career 300 games, 3 800 series with a high 836 for Dana Voitovich. And of course, part of the bowling Voitoviches that we've had his Uncle Greg on the show. Not lately, but early on in our run, we had Uncle Greg on a lot.
I can't believe he's only 23 years old. I feel like he's been around a lot longer than that to be only 23. And he's accomplished so much in his,
sure has.
his few years bowling.
7 in a row right now for Rob Piccoli. Can he keep that strike streak alive? Let's see. He is bowling great right now and doing it, you know, just with smarts. Not always with the big power that gave him the nickname of Rocket Rob. And I was waiting to see whether he'd get a little roller into that 7 pin. So the streak comes to an end on the strike front, but it's still on his way to a victory.
That's right. He'll get another chance in the next match to strike for us some more.
All right, so no chance to strike out here for Rob Piccoli, but he's going to advance to the next match. So it's a win for Rocket Rob. He'll take on Andy Reddick. We'll talk to Dana, get you ready for that match. When Sue and I return, we're off and rolling here at Classic Lanes in Kenmore. More Beat the Champ right after this. Dana, a lot like a lot of the bowlers here at Classic, it's taken a couple of frames for people to kind of figure out what the lanes are doing. Was that a little bit of the case for you?
Yeah, I played them both lanes wrong. I mean, both lanes are completely different. The right lane's way tighter than the left lane, but I just played both of them wrong.
All right, well, I guess that's unfortunately will do it, won't it?
And I don't think it would have mattered. He had a good look, so it would have been tough to beat him regardless, even if I did play him.
Yeah, he's
properly.
been the one guy who's been able to put up some big scores here so far, Sue.
Oh, definitely, and it's been pretty exciting. I do want to ask Dana, though, so you said you played him wrong. What would have been the difference? If you had to go back and we could do it again, how would you change your attack of the lanes?
I would have been more left on both lanes, but for different reasons. The right lane was really tight down lane, but it hooked really early, so I wanted to get around the early hook, but then I probably would have had to use more rev rate like I did on the fill shot, and then to get it back down lane.
Great.
And then the left lane was just hooking more The whole lane. The whole lane was hooking more.
Okay.
So I should have just been more left.
This sport
Thank
gets
you.
really complicated
It does.
sometimes,
It does.
Yeah, that's what I saw anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
Rob's in a
Could've
different
been-
part of the lane. He's basically taking that out of play, just throwing it hard and straight, like right at the headpin. That's
All
what he
right.
does best, and
There you go.
that's what looked good for him.
Yes,
so.
it does. Brian?
All right, Dana, thanks for bowling. Thanks
you.
for supporting Beat the Champ.
Of course.
All right, Dana Voitovich, one of the best we have had here on Beat the Champ. We know he'll be back soon. We know Rob Piccoli is sticking around. He's got a match with Andy Reddig. It is coming up next. Well, Andy Reddig will take us back to our parade of left-handers here as he takes on Rob Piccoli. We've had 7 of our 10 bowlers for this month here at Classic Lanes are coming from the left side, but frankly, it's the fact that Rob is a righty that has been able to take advantage of a relatively clean side of the lanes. Has a lot to do with his 2 wins in a row.
Absolutely. He's posted the highest scores, really, too, of the day.
Without
of the
not
month,
even
rather.
close, 244, 259. He's won both of his matches by 100 pins.
Right.
Well, if anybody's going to put up a good challenge, it's going to be veteran Andy Reddig. 13th appearance on Beat the Champ, 11 wins and 8 losses. It's been a while since we've seen him. It was Billy Lanes in Bradford in November was the last time we had Andy on the show. And those 11 wins, one of in the top 10 here on Beat the Champ. And he will start with a spare.
That's one of the few guys that have come up on the first shot and hit the pocket.
That's true. Getting out of that
We've had some
first
formations.
frame with a spare
Yeah.
is a victory right now with the way things are going. So now Rob is up his record to 12 wins versus 11 losses. He's won 2 in a row, and as I mentioned, put up some big scores of 244 and 259. And as Dana Voitovich talked about at the end in our interview there, he's just not only is he taking advantage of the clean side of the lanes, but he's throwing it nice and straight and not getting too fancy and mostly knocking all the pins down.
Right, and he has the ability to firm it up some more if he has to. So he's got that. This is the case where his strength and his rocket ability to just keep amping it up more. So this one's hooked up a little high for him. He might be able to, just throw it just a little bit harder and beat that transition pretty easily.
So we mentioned Rob making his 3rd consecutive appearance on the show, and what an incredible accomplishment that is. But hasn't been able to string a lot of wins together. Although maybe that's going to start now with the 2 in a row. And we'll see. Winner of this match takes on Shaun Dietz, and then the winner of that match will advance to Malwitz's Island Lanes for our next month's series of shows. There's a nice strike, 2nd frame for Rob Piccoli.
He's got real nice ball reaction on 31. The ball just rolls up for him. 32, he's got to force it a little bit more.
Yeah. Brian Borowski, proprietor here at Classic Lanes, is with us for some expert analysis here. And Brian, that's been kind of the theme here into the 3rd week of show, is that these 2 lanes are reacting almost completely differently.
And they are, and they have knowledge coming in before they're starting. I mean, everyone's been talking that the right lane is a little bit tighter than the left, so it's just making the right ball choice, making the right execution. That's all it really is. Just as with Pat Frick, he used 2 different bowling balls. Sometimes you have to do that in this situation, but sometimes it is a little difficult to do slower on the one and harder on the other.
Sure.
And that's why I think Rob has a little advantage where you can just, fire it up, in a certain area and where the ball doesn't move as much. So his accuracy, that's what makes him survive.
Right. He's not trying to open it up or anything. He's just really trying to keep it on line on that left lane, which seems to be the tougher lane. But on the left side, on lane 32, it seems to be that hang spot, and I think Andy just hit it.
Correct.
And
yes.
They're trying to work around the hang spot that I don't think is there on the right-hand side. So right now, Rob keeps it in the pocket on 32, and he really looks good.
Right. And we've had a lot of different styles of left-handers,
Sure.
and that changes the topography of the lane.
You bet.
where we've only had a couple of right-handers. So, Rob is, still relatively on a fresh condition.
Yep, that was going to be the challenge today. Like right from the get-go, when you looked at the different styles on the left-hand side, they were going to move that oil all over the place, or they're going to really kind of make a spotty shot out of it. Oops.
So what was the oops there? Too much? Got it a little bit too much to the left?
Well, he pulled the ball.
He pulled it.
Pulled it quite a bit, and that's one of the problems I have when I face a tougher condition, especially with a lot more oil. My ball speed is up there like Rob's, and you have a tendency to force the ball instead of letting the ball do some of the work. Sometimes you overdo it just a little bit.
Yeah, he's making it look easy, but in fact, he really is keeping it on line. And that one, and he is kind of like trying to do something. He's trying to get to turn it so that it's not doing a lot. And if you miss that by a little bit, it's going to the left.
Correct.
"34 years old from Kenmore is Rob Piccoli, 227 average. And that one kind of missed the target as well too, and will leave him a bit of a challenge here for those 3
He
pins
didn't
on
want
the
to
right
make
side.
a bad shot on that lane. That's his good lane.
Well, that's the other thing too. It's like you want to take advantage of the lane that you feel more comfortable with, where you've been more successful, and you don't want to waste, like you said, you don't want to waste a bad, bad shot there. But a good spare pickup for Rob. So 3 spares and a strike in the first 4 frames for Piccoli. And now the 48-year-old from Hamburg, Andy Reddig, employed by the Department of Homeland Security, will stroll up to lane 32. 225 is the average for Andy. And a number of awards throughout his career here. Double scratch winner in 2005 at the New York State level, kickoff tournament winner in 2018, 2017 Parisi Award at the Obenauer Masters. So Andy is right up there with some of the best bowlers in Western New York.
This looks like a good time to take a break. We'll be back with more Beat the Champ right after this. Welcome back to Beat the Champ.
I think it is kind of cool to keep track of who's been winning the most in that particular year. Most of the statistics that we give you are the all-time ones from the start of the show in 2016, but it's fun to keep track of who's the hottest guy right now or in this year. And we've kicked the idea around. Maybe that's something at the end of the year we'll recognize, or maybe even a little tournament with maybe the top guy from each year versus some other achievement. I leave that to all you brainiacs at the Proprietors Association. So.
Yeah, we could fit him in at a table.
Sure.
I leave that to Brian and all the smart minds at the Proprietors Association to figure out.
Well, Rob needed those 2. He kept himself in the match by throwing that double.
That's 4 in a row for Andy Reddick.
Slowed down the speed a little bit and got it out. And
it almost looked like it might have been too slow, but clearly
he got
was
it to
not.
the break point.
that was another great shot.
It really was.
You're often running with league play here as we get ourselves here towards October already, and off to another good start, another full league schedule at Classic Lanes, Brian?
Yes, we've been we're up a lot in league bowlers right now, and it's just keeping a work in progress.
How encouraging is that? And it's not just you. I think it's a lot of the bowling centers around West New York that are seeing numbers up in their leagues.
Yeah, again, bowling is a sport that anyone and everyone can do, and it gives you something to do on a Wednesday night, Thursday night, where you have something to do on that night, where you can just go out and have some fun instead of thinking about what should we do, and it's just a great opportunity to.
You can only binge so much Netflix,
Exactly. Well, you can do Netflix at any time. You don't have to worry about that Thursday night show. You can DVR it and watch it at your leisure.
That's true.
Or just pick a day and binge watch everything.
It probably, you could probably draw some lines and a little bit of a connection through to the fact that the world that we live in now does not require you to watch things when they tell you to watch them, which means, you know, I'm sure there's been times when there was a big show or a big event on where you saw maybe numbers were quieter at Bowling Center because, oh, everybody's staying home to watch this tonight, right?
Yeah.
It's part of the world we live in now.
It is. I mean, for the good and the bad of everything, it's, you know, it's reality.
So that was an open frame in the 7th for Rob Piccoli. And meanwhile, well, that's a much-needed 8-frame strike. Meanwhile, Andy Reddig is working 5 in a row. So
yeah, his shot went south on him. And how many times now have we seen this where the first half of the game someone looks like they're unbeatable, and the second half of the game it's like they switch pairs.
As much as I can remember on this show in a long time, where the first half and the second half of matches were sometimes almost completely different. And Andy Reddick will leave the 6-10 here, and that will end his run of 5 strikes in a row.
Well, he's put himself in good position here. The best that Rob can shoot is 223. So Andy really just needs to spare out at this point.
Big hook from the left to the right.
Wow.
And that was really close.
And when he released it, and I just saw that ball just started taking off early, I go, no, that's going in the right-hand gutter, not even hit the this.
Because you knew that it was going to make that big turn, huh?
Yeah, but the problem was the ball started hooking a little bit too early, and I don't think he expected that. And I think it was very fortunate to get that spare.
So that's what happens. You get a little lucky break there, and that might be the difference in the win for Andy Reddig. And
he gets to try that on the other side.
I was going to say, yeah. Now he'll have to mess with it on the other side.
Big spare here, though. He really needs a spare to force Rob to have to strike out.
And he'll get it. Back-to-back spares, 8th and 9th frames for Andy Reddig. So Rob Piccoli, that had rolled 244 and 259 in his 2-match winning streak now, isn't going to get anywhere close to those numbers, but how close can he get? And how much heat can he put on Andy Reddig here through his final 2 frames?
Well, if he strikes out, I mean, he's going to force Andy to at least mark. So he still has a possibility.
Yeah, I'm not going to get the strike there.
Yeah.
So, you know, again, just Rob had everything going, Sue. Seemed to have everything locked in, was throwing it great, knocking all the pins down, putting up big scores when no one else had, and doesn't take much for things to change, does it?
It doesn't.
Well, Andy just had a real good, solid game. I mean, he played the lanes like they're supposed to be played. So that was a big thing. And when your breaks don't go your way, you know, it's tough to resolve the situation.
So it looks like the 2-match winning streak is going to come to an end here for Rob Piccoli. And again, he's been on the show 3 consecutive months, so always a good chance we're going to see him up at Malwitz's Island Lanes next month as well, too. And put a nice little run, and as much as we've talked about Rob's accomplishments, he struggled to pin a whole lot of wins together, and it isn't going to happen here. It's a win for Andy Reddig over Rocket Rob Piccoli. So Reddig will move on to take on Shaun Dietz, our final match of the day. We'll get you ready for that when we return to Classic Lanes. More Beat the Champ right after this. Well, Rob, in a lot of ways, it's kind of the sport of bowling. You seemed locked in. You seemed to have that right side of the lanes mastered until you didn't, right?
Yeah, I guess, I don't know, for some reason I kept pulling the ball slightly and just kept making not good shots, but...
Did you think they were transitioning for you a little bit more and not, or just you?
Maybe slightly, but not too much. But as error on my part, I don't think the lanes changed for me that much.
What have you been able to do to, again, as we've talked about, 3rd consecutive month on the show, that's hard to do, to be that consistent. What have you been able to do to be so consistent, not only in the qualifying meet here, but just in your game in general?
Yeah, I just kind of really kind of stay focused when I'm bowling and try to not get too out of place and just stay calm and make good shots. And you know, the Bowl U thing, I participated at Brad Angelo's helped quite a bit. So.
All right, well, there you go. Good keys for every good bowler to stay kind of locked in the moment, right, Brian?
That's right. Great bowling, Rob.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Thanks for supporting Beat the Champ.
Appreciate it.
All right, Rocket Rob Piccoli with another good show here on Beat the Champ. And we got another match, our final of the day. It's going to be Shaun Dietz against Andy Reddick. Of course, it's coming up next. Match number 3 is Shaun Dietz taking on Andy Reddig, and we'll get our first look at Shaun right off the bat here. Sue had a prior commitment she had to hustle off to, so we're going to let Brian Borowski fill those very big shoes here for our final match. You ready?
I'm ready. I just need to get my blonde wig, and I'd be all set.
Too much information. way too much information. So Shaun Dietz in his 6th appearance here on Beat the Champ. Got the big backswing, got the big powerful swing. It's only got him 1 win so far in those appearances on the show against 4 losses, but he's a guy that can be very dangerous. Last time we saw Shaun was at the Jamestown Bowling Company earlier in 2018. So now Andy Reddick, and what'd you take out of the way Andy bowled in that 230 to 192 win over Rob Piccoli?
Well, he played the lanes extremely well. He's creating some area on both lanes. That one he just got in a little bit. The only thing I really see is if he can maintain his ball speed. Don't want the ball to hook up too early and nose it just like that. So ball speed for him is going to be extremely important.
Yeah, that one under 15 miles per hour, which is kind of slow, right? But we saw him be successful. Got some strikes on some of those at least perceived to be slower rolls down the lane.
Correct, especially on lane 32.
Mm-hmm. So we've got, what Andy, again, has been able to do is, remember, we've had a lot of lefties. 7 of our 10 bowlers this month have been lefties, and that side of the lanes is pretty beaten up. And Andy, like you said, was able to find, how hard is it to find a niche that still remains effective?
As with the lanes constantly keep changing, sometimes you got it, and then, it's like Andy, he had it, and then, now it's going away a little bit. Now he's got to re-find it again.
Is it harder because where we are now with so many lefties, and we're deep into our 3rd week here, final match of 3 weeks, again, there's not a lot of fresh oil still floating out there, is there?
Plus, you also have to remember we had a lot of different styles of bowling on the left-hand side, which a lot of left-handers are not used to having so many people bowl on their side of the lane, so it makes it a little bit more of a challenge.
It's interesting you say that, because I guess it could be understood and expected that as a lefty, you're going to have not as much to deal with, right? I mean, that is an interesting sort of dynamic that lefties don't often deal with.
Correct. I mean, right-handers, depending on your style, of course, there's always transition. We always have to move maybe 2 to 5, maybe even more boards. And, looking at the left-handers, they don't move as much, as dramatic as a right-hander do. So when you have a lot more play on those lanes, now you have to be a little more dramatic in changing instead of a board or 2 adjustment.
Do the lefties get a little spoiled and not having to quite be as particular about that as a right-hander would be?
As a right-hander, yeah.
Yeah, of course you're going to say that. I know you're going to. But it's interesting that that you say that, and whether it's part of the skill set or not, you're a lefty bowler. You don't expect to have to do that much changing.
Correct.
So, but in a case like this where we've had a lot of lefties and you're bowling against another one, you better be ready for it.
That was a great shot by Shaun.
Good shot. Good strike by Shaun. 2 of the first 3 strikes for Shaun Dietz, 25 years old from Lockport. So now back to Andy, who opened with spares. 48 years old from Hamburg with a 225 average. And again, at 12 wins, one of our more successful within the top 10 of wins here on Beat the Champ.
That was a much better ball. His ball speed went up a little bit on that one, but a lot more smoother. So that was a great shot.
So for people at home, Brian, Andy is not a guy that you need to. The ball speed is not as critical necessarily to his success as maybe other bowlers are. Is that safe to say? As people watch it and go, "Oh, that looked fast," or "That looked slow."
No, I mean, ball speed is important to everybody. I mean, if you're, throw it slow and then throw it fast, you're going to get different results. So anyone who bowls, it's very important to be consistent in what you do.
I think somebody sneezed there maybe and that threw Andy a little bit. Well, he heard something there as he kind of started and pulled back. So
just fortunate is he able to stop. Sometimes you can't stop.
Right, there's no balks in bowling, correct?
No, there is no balks in bowling.
As we've been dropping baseball terminology like frozen ropes on the show this month.
That's right. That was an awesome shot again. Again, his ball speed up a little bit. Was it Sue that did that?
I don't know. Oh. It might have been. All right, so 2 strikes in a row for Andy. Shaun has strikes in 1 and 3 and a spare in 2. That big backswing generates the power, but didn't quite get the results there. That's going to be a difficult second shot for Shaun Dietz. Bowls in leagues a couple nights a week. Clarence on Mondays, Island Lanes on Friday, Travel League on Saturdays. Everybody is deep into the bowling season here. It's just begun this month of September. Let's see what Shaun does with this. He'll take the 2 on the right, so that'll be an open in the 4th frame for Shaun Dietz. Not all that uncommon here this month at Classic Lanes. There's been a lot of open frames, I feel like, and that's just been a product of the challenges of the lanes.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, sometimes when you just get a little tentative up there and you just yank it just a touch, there's not a lot of room for error. So it's very important to really hit your target. That's a great shot.
That's a great follow-up for Shaun. So a strike in the 5th frame for Shaun Dietz.
The action will continue on Beat the Champ in just a minute.
Instant replay on Beat the Champ is brought to you by Transit Lanes and Keglers. Join us for bowling, food, and drinks.
Welcome back to Beat the Champ.
Where you have to have different aspects so people can spend, instead of just spending an hour or 2, maybe spending 3-4 hours in a facility.
Interesting insight into kind of how the business has changed a little bit. You almost it almost makes me think about how, in some ways, places like the Topgolf have become more popular than the golf courses themselves. Correct. In some places, right?
Right. I mean, my daughter just started working for a company called Punch Bowl Social. They just have 6 lanes, and their biggest aspect is the food and beverage. Mm-hmm. But they do have laser tag, they do have karaoke, they do have different aspects of it, and they just put 6 lanes in, and they're one of the fastest growing chains where they're opening a new facility every month.
Do you ever foresee a time when some of those kind of places will start to pop up here, or are we too rooted in our traditions of the sport?
I think we're a little too rooted. The other aspect is the price of these facilities are, you're looking at about maybe a $10 to $15 million investment, and the price has to be there. Unfortunately, with the Buffalo market, we're very price sensitive, and seeing $5 a game, $6 a game, and paying for the food and all that to be a much higher price is difficult in this market.
Interesting stuff from Brian, who really gives us an insight on a national basis. All right, we want to get back to this match because we're coming down the stretch here. Both guys have kind of found a little bit of a groove. Andy striking in 7 and 8. Shaun had him 3 in a row before a spare in 8, and that was kind of one that he wanted and needed probably here in the 9th frame. And you can see the look on his face showed you a little bit of his frustration. But in our final match here of our third week, looks like both these guys got a pretty decent handle on where this thing is going.
Yeah, we have a real good match here.
Yep. So that's back-to-back spares for Shaun in 8 and 9. And now Andy, working those 2 consecutive strikes, has a chance to vault himself back into the lead here. As you can see from Sue Jeziorski and the Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard. Just missed the target a little bit there and didn't have, again, a ton of speed on that one from Andy. So he'll have to pick up the 4.7. That one under 15 miles per hour. Good spare pickup in the 9th frame for Andy Reddig. Winner of this match will advance on to Malwitz's Island Lanes in 2 weeks to take on a whole new group of 9 challengers. And don't forget, we've got some qualifying coming up at Malwitz's Island Lanes over the next couple of next week or so before we determine who will be ready to take on the winner of this match. Next week, it's the Classic Lanes Junior Bowling Championship Challenge. We've got some of your best young bowlers coming everybody's way next week, right?
Yeah, we had a qualifier, a pretty good, successful 52 entries. So we'll be awarding over $600 in scholarship during the next week. Again, we always like to showcase juniors. We always like to show the kids, you know, how fun it is to be on TV, and also add a little bit of scholarship money.
Yeah, that'll be great. So we'll have 4 young bowlers participating in next week's show. Brian will help us out with that one as well, too. That's coming your way next week on Beat the Champ. But first, we got to figure out who's going to win this match and who's going to get to sit back and just make that not always easy drive to Grand Island, depending on, as long as they're not filming any more movies and closing the Grand Island bridges like they were a few weeks ago. Fill ball here for Andy Reddig, not what he wanted. Certainly was looking for maximum pin count. So Andy puts the 209 on the board. And now Shaun Dietz rolls into lane 32 to see what he needs to do to figure out a win.
He needs a double and 5 in order to win.
A double and 5. Let's see whether he can do it. And he will not get the double, and that means it's going to be a win for Andy Reddig. So it'll be 2 in a row for Andy Reddig, and he'll take that 2-match winning streak up to Grand Island to take on a top contender in a couple of weeks. So Andy Reddig gets the victory over Shaun Dietz. We'll talk to both guys and wrap up this week's show when Brian and I return to Classic Lanes in Kenmore. More Beat the Champ coming your way next. In one of our tighter matches of the month, Andy Reddig noses out Shaun Dietz 209 to 202. The lanes are pretty beat up, Shaun, right? It's been a long day of bowling, particularly on the left-hand side. How much of a challenge was that for you in this match?
It was only a challenge on one of the lanes. The right lane was definitely a weird one. I made that ball change in the 10th because what I had wasn't working, and you don't know if you don't try.
Is it unusual for you to have dealing with so much action on the left-hand side that we've had this month? That doesn't normally happen for you, does it?
No, we lefties like to be left alone for that reason.
I couldn't have said it any better than that. You're absolutely right. Well, even when Sue's not here, I still don't get to hang out on the winner's side, do I?
You still got another Sue. We don't go away. I've got a question for Andy. So sometimes things go out of your control when you're bowling in a match. We had a cell phone, lot going off. Andy had to back off. How hard is that to regroup when you have to come back up? Because you made a great shot.
Yeah, I mean, you have to think about it a lot, but it isn't so bad if you just reset. We've been doing this a long time, so you just start over and go through your routine and make a shot.
Okay. It was really impressive to come back and make the shot, and that was one of the clutch shots in the match. That really helped out.
Yep, I needed that one.
We weren't sure if that was you over there that distracted
It was
him.
not
So
me.
okay, it was not you. So all right, Brian, we got to give a little money here to Shaun.
Beat the champ. Thank you. Good luck to you.
All right, we're going to hold off on giving any to Andy because we're not sure if he's done winning yet. So we're going to see more of Andy in a couple of weeks up in Grand Island. But Sue and I will come back to wrap up this week's show and get you ready for our special 4th edition show coming up next week. We're back right after this. Well, Sue, as we wrap up our competition part of our stay here at Classic Lanes, it's been an interesting 3 weeks. We've seen the lanes be a real challenge, one different than the other. Probably why no one was really able to rack up a whole lot of consecutive wins.
And very true, and there's a lot of factors too going on with why the lanes played a little different. The people out there, topography, the way that your lane actually sets up. One could go uphill, one can go downhill. There's many, many factors. And then a lot of nice things that we saw was Andy at the end, the last match that he bowled, he actually picked up his ball speed from the previous match because he had to slow down to accommodate, and then as soon as they broke down, he sped back up. So it's kind of nice to see what these guys can really do. They're very talented.
I love it that we can drop big important words like topography on a bowling show, right? That's pretty cool.
That one.
That is pretty cool. But it's all part of the challenge of being a successful bowler on Beat the Champ. Andy Reddick's got that title for the moment. Will he keep it? We'll find out in a couple of weeks. Next week on the show, it's our Junior Bowling Challenge. We'll have 4 of the best young bowlers from here at Classic Lanes playing for some scholarship money. That's going to be a lot of fun. So Sue and I and Brian Borowski will see you on next week's edition of Beat the Champ.